Good morning and welcome to Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm Brian Tuttle with Carolina Aircraft, here today to show you one of the nicest G36s on the market. November 78 Echo uniform is a 2008 G36 that has the Tornado Alley Whirlwind 3 conversion with the latest Rammer 3. Let's take a closer look at this beautiful airplane. The conversion on 78 Echo uniform was completed at 240 hours total time. This airplane currently has 460 hours total time since new. So this was done about 200 hours ago. This would have been a $50,000+ conversion here. And what this does for you is, first of all, it gives you a gross weight increase up to 4,000 pounds versus the normal 3,650 pounds. This gives you more power and cooler temperatures. Typically you'll see Lena peak operations and cylinders running around 350 degrees. This has the turbo Gammy fuel injectors, which really make it a smooth Lena peak operation. I have flown this airplane up to 15,000 feet. It runs very smooth. So you really have nice balanced fuel air ratios, more cylinder life. It's actually easier to operate. You firewall forward everything and leave it there all the way up to the cruising altitude. This has the intercooler and the Rammer 3, which has the bigger piping for better cooling. Tornado Alley says at least 10 knots faster. Again, with the fuel, the tip tanks that we have, the Shannon 20 gallons, we've got a nautical mile range of around 900 miles. You'll typically see at, say, 11,000 feet, this airplane will cruise just under 180 knots on 16.5 gallons an hour. If you take it on up to the mid to higher teens, you'll see close to 200 knots on around 16 gallons an hour Lena peak. And you can fly this airplane all the way up to 20,000 feet. The November 78 Echo uniform has a very nice 3-blade Hartzell heated prop. This has the 460 hours on it as well. Nice polished spinner here. I want to point out as well, we have very nice LED lighting for the landing light and the taxi light as well. Okay, we've panned around here to the 20-gallon Shannon tip tanks. Now, this gives this airplane a total fuel capacity of 114 gallons. And what I really like about the Shannons here, I'm going to bump the wing, and you can see down at the bottom, they have the sight gauges where you can see the fuel from the cockpit. Okay, that's important to know not only how much fuel you do have, but also if it is transferring into the main tanks. The paint on November 78 Echo uniform is in immaculate condition. I would rate this at least a 9. This has the special edition Diamond Star overall with onyx mica and titanium mica striping. You can see here that the bottom is the darker color, the top is the Diamond Star. Again, this is absolutely gorgeous. This is one of the nicest paint schemes and nicest G36s that we've ever had here at Carolina Aircraft. So just a quick glance back here at the rear of the airplane. Very nice, everything is clean. You can see the large beacon at the top there. Striping, everything looks gorgeous. There are static wicks back here as well, but again, very beautiful airplane. The November 78 Echo uniform has a large dual cargo doors in the back that open up to a gorgeous interior. Let's take a closer look. The interior on November 78 Echo uniform is in absolutely gorgeous condition. You can see here the beautiful two-tone gray leather seating. As we pan around through the carpet, the windows, we have the G&D window inserts that not only give it a great look but actually help for quietness and cooling. Nice cabin table here with 4 cup holders. You can see here on the side I have my own music input for the rear passengers back here. Up front they have a separate music input as well as XM music as well. It's hot here today in North Carolina. I've got the side windows open here. It allows for a nice flow of air back through. I think it's about 95 degrees today, but you can see, guys, I'm 6'2", I'm about 210 pounds. Got plenty of leg room, plenty of shoulder room. The 2008 models have the recessed arm rest here, so I've got plenty of room, plenty of headroom. It's just like sitting in my living room watching television. The instrument panel on November 7-8 Echo uniform is the latest and greatest technology from Garmin. Let's take a closer look. The primary flight display that you see here for the G1000 just has a wealth of information. Starting at the top, we have our volume control here, our nav 1 and 2 control, and our heading bug control. And one thing I really like here, if the heading bug is over to the side, just a push will automatically sync it back up to the right off of the nose. Your altitude pre-selector is here in thousands and hundreds of feet. You can see our nav information here is for our number 1 and number 2, and then our comm is on the opposite side there. We have our airspeed readout in our digital tape. Another very nice feature is you can set a flight level change just like you could in a jet or a King Air. You can set this, hit the FLC button on the autopilot, and it will climb at that indicated airspeed or descend at that indicated airspeed. You can see as we come down, you have a glide slope, or excuse me, a ground speed readout here and a true airspeed, so when you're up at altitude you can get that information. Our inset window here, I can turn that off. I can bring it back up and really put a wealth of information in here. I can have my traffic show up on the inset, topography, terrain. I can choose storm scope, NEXRAD weather, XM lightning, METARs, you name it, I can put it in there. I can declutter it to get rid of information, or again, I can turn it completely off. Going back to the top here, I can put my flight director in go around mode. Let's say I've come down on approach, or I'm just taking off, and I put that up. It pitches up to about 7 degrees, I would say, and we just keep our airplane in the flight director there as we're climbing out. Here's our DG and our electronic HSI that's built in. And then over to the right, again, you can see my altitude pre-select. Now, that coupled with the Garmin GFC 700 will fly up and level off at 3,000. I can select a vertical speed here as well. And once we were flying, I could choose nose up, and you can see my little cursor here moving up. Let's say I wanted 800 feet a minute, and I would set the autopilot, and now it would climb me up 800 feet a minute and level me off at 3,000 feet as well, and it will also do that in the descent. Our baro here in Greensboro today is about 3008. Here's how we would change that. And so coming back down to the bottom here, I'll just work myself from left to right. Primary flight display, I can push this. This has the synthetic vision option as well. And if we had a flight plan in here and we're flying, we have the pathway boxes that will come up, that will show our flight plan. Very nice on an approach as well. They'll have green boxes that come up that just brings you right down to the runway throughout the approach. You can see in the background here our synthetic, numbers came up for 180 degrees. Sorry, I got tongue-tied there a little bit. We go back on the function here, and a CDI to change from localizer 1 to back to GPS. DME, our transponder, we can push this and put in our code. It also has the VFR code, which would automatically go to 1200. You have timers, references that you can put in for VX, VY, those type of things. We have a nearest function here for the nearest airports. Obviously that pulls up Greensboro. Any type of alerts that you would have when you turn your air conditioning on, that alerts. If you had a door that was open, that would bring up an alert as well. And then on the far right side, we can change our baro, switch between our comm 1 and 2. We can change our range. Now this range button on this side is for our inset here, to scroll out or back. And then Nice flight plan inputs here. We can pull up our flight plan. We're on Greensboro. Let's say we're going to go to Myrtle Beach, one of my favorite places. We'll just put in North Myrtle Beach, Grand Strand. Hit enter, and that automatically slaves us right to North Myrtle Beach, 164 degrees, about a 50-minute flight from here. And so that is our primary flight display. And we'll go ahead and move to the middle of the panel here. Now this is all of our audio panel information with our COM1, COM2, COM3, or COM half. I can be on one COM radio, and my co-pilot, if I have one, can be talking on another COM radio on his side. Here's all the other information that you would expect to have on the audio panel. One really neat button down here, the display backup. Now if I push this, you'll notice on the right hand side, which is normally our multifunction display, I will push, and all of the information that I was looking at transfers over to the multifunction display, and this actually becomes a primary flight display for the co-pilot. So really a neat thing if you've got someone that would like to learn to fly, or if you've got a child or someone that's going along, and instead of them looking over your shoulder, they can have all the information right there in front of them. And oh, by the way, if you look here, here are the boxes that are drawn to take me to Myrtle Beach. Since I put my flight plan on, you can see the pathway in the sky there. So that's a very neat function of the G1000. So I'll go ahead and reset this, and we'll talk about the multifunction display now. Again, a wealth of information. The same configuration as what's on the primary as far as the nav comms go, to where the co-pilot can input that information. Here's all your autopilot controls. This GFC 700 is an incredible autopilot. I came from the corporate world, and a lot of the citations and older King Airs and stuff that I flew didn't have near the autopilot that this is. It has a built-in yaw damper, again, flight director. This will fly heading, nav, approaches, hold altitude. Again, we talked about the vertical speed and the flight level change. This is a 3-axis autopilot with built-in GPS steering. Absolutely phenomenal. Will fly and approach all the way down to the numbers, and does an incredible job. You can see here on the top left portion, this is our manifold pressure gauge, our RPMs, fuel flows, gallon per hour, and then all of our engine information. Cylinder head temperature, oil temp, oil pressure. We have dual alternators in this airplane since everything's electrical. So there's your loads, your bus volts, your fuel quantities, and those type of things. If I push the soft knob down here on the engine and hit system, now it will pull up a digital readout of the oil temp and pressures, the fuel flows and the gallons remaining. This is where I would input my gallons as I top the airplane off, and you can see the electrical loads here as well. If I push lean, so I'm up at altitude now, and I'm going to do lean the airplane out. I can do cylinder select, see each different cylinder, what's going on inside there with EGTs and cylinder head temperatures, or I can do an assist. And as I lean the airplane back, you would notice the cylinder head temps and EGTs going up, and it's just a way to more get that a little bit more precise. So let's go back here and click on my map. Again, kind of like we had on the inset, I can do traffic, terrain, storm scope, NexRad, basically everything on this map. And you can see here currently we are on the airport diagram here in Greensboro, and I can scroll out. It will slowly pan out to my flight plan that I have for Myrtle Beach, and typical information you'll see on here with the airports and airspaces and those sort of things. So we'll scroll through the different map pages here. This is our traffic page. Now, not only do we have the Garmin 330 transponder, but we also have Skywatch 497 active traffic on this airplane. So once we take off, if there's an airplane in the sky and its transponder's on, we're going to see that airplane and it will actually call out traffic, and will light up in yellow if it's deemed to be a threat. So you can see this goes out 12 miles, plenty of range for a G36. The next page is our WX500 storm scope, our XM data link page, and again, you could have any information that you like here. The Triad itself, the echo tops, lightning, cell movement, the METARs. Click on more weather, you can get freezing levels, see the surface winds, air reps, pi reps, just a wealth of information there for you as far as weather goes. And then we have the terrain awareness page, or TALS-B, on the last map page here. As we move to the waypoint, you can see here I've got in Greensboro. This is all of the information for Greensboro and the approaches, all of the frequencies that are available, different intersections, different things as we move through the waypoint pages here. Over to the aux, again, there's the input data for where we're going, just some generic stuff that you can set up for reminders and those type of things to switch tanks. This is our GPS status page. Just information about the airplane there. This has the GDL69 XM weather and XM music. You see here 80s on 8. I could choose that with Phil Collins, hit my volume, turn my volume up, and I'm listening to XM music as I'm up at 15,000 feet heading down to Myrtle Beach. One thing I do like about the XM music on the G1000 is it doesn't cut out when either I'm singing or I'm talking to my passengers. However, it does cut out if the air traffic controllers are trying to call. Okay, so starting here on the last page is the nearest function. So you have nearest airports, nearest intersections, nearest NDBs, VORs, user waypoints, ARTCCs, airspace alerts, and those type of things. Again, on the right hand side here, we've got all the information that we had on the primary flight display. If your co-pilot wants to input flight plan information, procedural type stuff, he can do so as well. On the far right, we have our standby airspeed indicator, standby attitude indicator, and standby altimeter. As part of the turbo normalized system, this airplane also has the built-in oxygen system. So here's your controls to turn the oxygen on. It looks like a 3,000 psi system, and you would turn it on there. As we pan down into the middle of the panel here, you can see this has a 3-blade hot prop on the airplane, and this is electric, so we would turn this on. It works beautifully, goes up to about 14 amps, which is what it's supposed to do. Just beside that is electronic fuel gauge for our tip tanks. And again, we talked about the sight gauges, so we really didn't have to have this gauge, but it's very nice. It shows you digitally what's in each tank of the Shannon tanks outside, and you've got a day-night switch here for the lighting. Here's your transfer pumps. Now you would just simply turn those on after about an hour of pulling out of each tank, and that is transfer fuel only. It goes right into the main tanks. We suggest flying for about an hour, turning those on, and that way the transfer rate would not over exceed the fuel burn rate. The control wheel on 78EU uniform is in beautiful condition. It's leather wrapped. We have our standard mic button here on the fingertip. The red button is for the autopilot disconnect. We have control wheel steering button here that controls the flight director. Electric trim up and down. A nice beach chronometer here with a timer in the middle. As we come up to the top, we have a button here for our map light, and this not only controls the map light underneath, but also the lighting for the outside air temperature gauge. Transponder ident button, very nice. You take off, they say ident. It's just a simple push of the button. Another very nice feature is you have an audio replay. Let's say you didn't quite catch something on your clearance or the last call, you would just pull down on this button, and you hear the last audio from the controller. And then it's a two-way switch. If you push up, you have a storm scope clear button as well. 78 Echo uniform has the very nice Rosen sun visors here. Beautiful condition. All of the glass is in excellent condition. No scratches, no starlighting, no crazing whatsoever. And you can see here the glare shield as well is in beautiful condition. If you're in the market for a G36 that's turbo normalized, come see us in Greensboro, North Carolina at Carolina Aircraft and take a closer look at November 78 Echo uniform. This airplane is very low time. It only has 460 hours total time since new. Around 200 hours since the conversion was done. Now this is the latest and greatest from Tornado Alley Whirlwind. It has the Rammer 3 conversion. You can fly around at 15,000–20,000 feet in air-conditioned comfort, around 200 knots, lean a peak on around 16 gallons an hour. The paint and interior are absolutely gorgeous on this airplane. I would rate both at least a 9. This is a beautiful airplane, folks. Come and see us, Greensboro, North Carolina. You can see us on the web at www.carolinaaircraft.com or give us a call, me or George Johnson, at 336-665-0300. And thanks for watching.